It's been a grueling day at work, the kind where the minutes stretch into hours and the coffee loses its power. The fluorescent lights of the office have drained me as I step into my car. I make an uncharacteristic decision. I'm going home early? The thought of collapsing onto the couch alone with my thoughts is too tempting to ignore. The rush of unexpected freedom is a bittersweet comfort. I maneuver through traffic with a sense of urgency. My mind wanders to the mundane, the bills piling up the upcoming presentation, and then, almost as an afterthought, a sense of relief at being able to get some rest before the evening. I pull into the driveway, noting the strange tranquility of the house. There's no sign of my wife's car, but her vehicle is usually parked in the garage. The front door opens easily, a familiar creak greeting me. I tiptoe through the quiet house, a small smile forming on my lips, as I imagine the surprise of finding her already home. A change of plans seems like a chance to rekindle some warmth in our relationship. Maybe we can spend the evening together, just the two of us. As I pass by the bedroom, I hear the unmistakable sound of running water. A quick glance at the clock tells me that she should be home by now. My curiosity piqued. I walk over to the bathroom. An impulse strikes me. I'll replace the old towels with fresh ones. It's a small gesture, but one that might brighten her day. I reach for the doorknob, but a sudden, unsettling thought makes me pause. There's a muffled murmur from within, accompanied by the splash of water and an indistinguishable hum of voices. I shrug it off as paranoia, pushing open the door with the intent of completing my small, thoughtful act. The scene that unfolds before me is one that will forever be seared into my memory. Two silhouettes are clearly visible through the frosted glass of the shower door. My wife's voice, the one that usually brings me comfort, is mingled with a deeper, unfamiliar timbre. My heart races as I approach, my mind spinning with confusion and dread. I push open the door, the sudden gust of steam nearly overwhelming. There they are, my wife and her coworker Tom, their bodies entwined in a moment of intimate betrayal. The water cascades over them, a brutal reminder of the comfort they find in each other's arms. While I stand here, shattered and exposed, my hands clench into fists. I feel a surge of anger, so raw it's almost physical. It's as though a switch has been flipped, my entire world altering in an instant. Betrayal isn't just a word now. It's a living, breathing reality that has left me breathless and furious. Who is this? I manage to croak out, my voice trembling as I fight to maintain control. Tom's eyes widen in shock and my wife stumbles to cover herself, her face pale and guilty. Jason. She starts, her voice trembling. It's not what it looks like, not what it looks like. I cut her off, my voice rising. You're here with Tom, my colleague. How could you do this? Tom scrambles to gather his clothes, his face a mix of shame and fear. I'm sorry, man, I didn't know, save it, I snap. I don't want to hear excuses. I turn on my heel, my mind racing with 100 thoughts. The betrayal cuts deep, a wound that won't heal with words. I've always been the understanding type, but this is beyond comprehension. This isn't just about infidelity. It's about trust, about everything that has been ripped away from me in this single devastating moment. In the days that follow, the house is filled with a tense silence. My wife's attempts to explain are met with cold indifference. She pleads for another chance, but the image of her with Tom is burned into my mind, a constant reminder of her betrayal. I need to get out of here. I say one evening, pacing the living room, I can't do this anymore. What are you going to do? She asks, tears in her eyes. I don't know yet. I reply, but I'll figure it out. The decision to leave is clear, but the plan for revenge begins to form. In my mind, it's not just about leaving. It's about ensuring that her actions have consequences. If she's going to shatter everything we built, then she'll face the fallout of her choices. Divorce papers are filed and the process is painful but necessary. I'm resolute in my decision. Every step I take is calculated, each action a part of a larger plan to ensure that her life, her comfort and her stability are irrevocably altered. It's not just about hurting her. It's about reclaiming my own life, about showing that I will not be a victim of her deceit. As the legal proceedings unfold, I take solace in the fact that though I may have been betrayed, I will not remain powerless. This chapter in my life is over, but the story is far from finished. The house, once filled with shared dreams and laughter, now stands as a monument to the heartbreak and betrayal that drove me to take control of my own fate. The days following the confrontation are a blur of legal meetings, emotional strain, and relentless planning. My house feels alien now, the walls echoing with the ghosts of better times. My wife Linda has moved out of the bedroom, taking refuge in the guest room. Our conversations are reduced to terse exchanges, a formality rather than communication. Each time I see her, I'm reminded of the betrayal that has shattered our life. It's early evening when I decide it's time to meet with my lawyer, Michael. We've arranged to meet at a small cafe near his office. I walk in the bell above the door, chiming softly. Michael, a man in his mid-40s with a sharp suit and an even sharper mind, is already seated at a corner table. His expression is serious and his eyes hold a mixture of sympathy and resolve. "Jason," he says. As I sit down, "Let's get started. Where do we stand?" I ask, my voice carrying a note of urgency. I want this resolved as quickly as possible. Michael nods, opening his briefcase and pulling out a stack of papers. We filed for divorce, but the process will take time. Linda's contesting the settlement, which could drag things out. I want her to understand the consequences of her actions. I say, my jaw clenched. I don't just want a divorce. I want her to feel the weight of what she's done. Michael raises an eyebrow but doesn't comment. There are ways to expedite the process. We can push for a summary judgment, but you'll need to be prepared for a fight. Do it. I reply firmly. I don't care about the costs. I want this over. Michael's gaze softens slightly. Al, right, Jason. I'll start the necessary motions. We'll make sure she knows the full extent of the ramifications. With that settled, I leave the cafe, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. The plan is taking shape and the steps I need to take are becoming clearer. But revenge isn't just about the legal proceedings. It's about ensuring Linda understands the cost of her betrayal on every level. The next day I receive a call from an old friend. Greg, we've known each other since college, and while we've drifted apart, he's always been someone I could rely on. His voice on the other end is a welcome distraction from the emotional storm. I'm navigating. "Hey Jason," Greg says. "I heard about what happened. Mind if I drop by?" "Sure," I reply. "I could use the company." Greg arrives in the early afternoon carrying a couple of bags from a local deli. He sets them on the kitchen counter and looks around the house with a mix of concern and curiosity. So this is where the magic happened. He jokes lightly, trying to break the tension. "Yeah, well, it's not exactly magical anymore." I respond, trying to smile. "It's more like a war zone." We sit down at the table and I fill him in on the details of the divorce and my plans. Greg listens attentively, nodding occasionally. "I understand, wanting to make her pay." Greg says once I finish, "But you need to be careful. Revenge can be a double-edged sword. It might end up hurting you more than her." "I get that," I say. "But right now I need to feel like I'm doing something. I need to see her face, the reality of what she's done." Greg studies me for a moment. "All right, but remember, you've got to stay focused. Don't let this consume you." As the days pass, the legal process unfolds with a mixture of efficiency and frustration. Linda's attempts to delay proceedings only add to my determination. The more she resists, the more resolute I become in ensuring she faces the consequences of her actions. One evening I find myself sorting through old photographs and mementos, a task that feels both cathartic and painful. I come across a photo of Linda and me from happier times. A snapshot of a life that now seems like a distant memory. Anger surges within me again, a reminder of why I'm doing this. My phone buzzes with a message. It's from Linda asking if we can meet to discuss the divorce settlement. The request is unexpected and, to be honest, unwelcome. But I agree. Intrigued by what she might have to say, we meet at a small park, a neutral location where neither of us has the upper hand. Linda arrives, her face drawn and tired. She sits down on a bench, her eyes meeting mine with a mixture of remorse and defiance. "Jason, I know you're angry," she begins, "but this isn't just about us anymore. It's affecting everything, our friends, our families. I'm aware of that." I reply coolly, "But you should have thought about that before you started an affair." "I'm sorry," she says, tears welling in her eyes. "I never meant for things to get this bad. Can't we at least try to work something out?" "No," I say firmly. "I've made my decision. I'm moving forward and I want this over as soon as possible." Linda's face falls and she nods slowly, resigned. "All right. I guess I can't change your mind," as she walks away. I feel a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. The path I've chosen is clear, but it's fraught with emotional turbulence. My resolve remains unshaven, but the weight of the situation is a constant companion. The plan for retribution is set into motion, and as I watch Linda leave, I know that this is only the beginning of a long, painful journey. The week drags on in a haze of legal paperwork and sleepless nights. My resolve to move forward with the divorce remains unwavering, but the emotional toll is becoming more apparent. I'm consumed with a mix of anger and strategy, determined to see this through to the end. My phone buzzes with a new message. It's from Michael, my lawyer. He's arranged a meeting to discuss the next steps in our strategy. I meet him at his office, a sleek modern space that contrasts sharply with the turmoil in my mind. Jason Michael greets me as I enter. I have some updates. Good, I say, taking a seat. What's the latest? Michael pulls out a stack of documents we've filed for a summary judgment to expedite the divorce. However, Linda's attorney has filed a counterclaim challenging the terms of the settlement. It looks like we're in for a protracted battle. I nod, feeling a surge of frustration. What's our next move? We'll need to prepare for a contested hearing, Michael replies. This means gathering evidence to support your claims and preparing for potential arguments she may raise. It's crucial. We build a solid case, all right, I say, trying to steady my voice. What do we need to do? Michael outlines a plan. We'll need to gather evidence of Linda's affair, document the emotional impact on me, and prepare for her attorney's arguments. The process is meticulous and demanding, but I'm ready to face it head-on. Back at home, I start gathering evidence, sifting through old emails, texts, and documents that might support my case. I find a series of messages between Linda and Tom that confirm the extent of their affair. Each message is a fresh stab of betrayal, but I channel that anger into my work, determined to build a case that will leave no room for doubt. One evening as I'm working late, the doorbell rings. It's Greg, my old friend, who's come over to offer his support. He carries a 6-pack of beer and a box of pizza. Thought you might need some company, he says, setting the items on the kitchen counter. Thanks, I reply, a faint smile on my lips. I could use a break. We sit down and I fill Greg in on the latest developments. His expression turns serious as he listens. It sounds like you're in for a tough fight, he says. But you're doing the right thing by preparing thoroughly. Yeah, I guess. I reply, running a hand through my hair. It's just hard to keep my focus with everything that's happening. Greg offers a reassuring nod. Remember, this is about getting closure and moving on. It's not just about winning or losing. The evening passes with a mix of camaraderie and distraction. Greg's presence is a welcome relief from the relentless stress of the legal battle. By the time he leaves, I feel a renewed sense of determination. The next morning, I receive a call from Michael. We've hit a snag. Michael says Linda's attorney has requested a temporary restraining order against you, claiming you're harassing her. We need to address this immediately. The accusation is a bitter twist, but I'm resolute. What do we do? Michael explains that we'll need to present evidence of our communication history to counter the claim. We'll also need to attend a court hearing to defend against the restraining order. I spend the day organizing documents and preparing for the hearing. The thought of Linda's attempt to portray me as the aggressor only fuels my determination. I'm not about to let her derail the process with baseless claims. The hearing day arrives and the courtroom feels cold and imposing. Linda is there, her face a mask of practiced indignation. Her attorney is a slick, sharp, reused man who immediately starts painting me as a threat. Michael stands beside me, his demeanor calm and professional. He presents our evidence methodically, countering each of Linda's attorney's claims with facts and documentation. The back and forth is intense, but Michael's expertise shines through when it's my turn to speak. I address the court with a steady voice. I have not harassed Linda. I'm simply seeking a fair resolution to our divorce. Any claims to the contrary are unfounded and meant to delay the proceedings. The judge listens attentively and, after a tense pause, delivers a ruling in our favor. The restraining order request is denied. It's a small victory, but it feels significant. Back at home, I reflect on the day's events. The legal battle is far from over, but the recent developments have strengthened my resolve. Linda's attempts to manipulate the situation have only solidified my determination to see this through. Greg calls later that evening, checking in to see how the hearing went. How did it go? He asks. We won, I reply, a hint of relief in my voice, but it's just one step in a long process. Greg's voice is encouraging. You're handling this well, just keep your focus, and don't let her tactics wear you down. As we hang up, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. The path to retribution is fraught with obstacles, but each victory, no matter how small, brings me closer to closure. The struggle is far from over, but with each passing day, I move closer to reclaiming my life and ensuring that Linda's betrayal is met with the consequences she deserves. Weeks have passed since the hearing, and the legal battle has reached a fever pitch. My resolve to see Linda face the consequences of her betrayal has only strengthened. Fueled by the intensity of the courtroom drama and the constant reminders of her deceit, the once familiar contours of my life have been replaced by a relentless drive for retribution. The final court date approaches. Michael and I have been working tirelessly, gathering the last pieces of evidence and preparing for what promises to be a decisive showdown. My anger has evolved into a cold, calculated focus, and I'm determined to make Linda and Tom pay for their betrayal. As the day of the final hearing arrives, I walk into the courtroom with a sense of grim anticipation. The atmosphere is charged with tension, and Linda's presence only amplifies my resolve. She sits at her lawyer's side, her face a mask of steely defiance. Tom, who has been mostly absent from the proceedings, shows up with a look of apprehension. Michael and I take our seats. The courtroom is a theater of high stakes, and today will be the climax of this painful chapter. Linda's attorney opens the proceedings with a series of arguments designed to paint me as the villain. Each claim is meticulously crafted to undermine my case, but Michael counters with our evidence, presenting a damning portrayal of Linda's deceit. After hours of tense arguments, the judge calls a recess. I step outside for a moment of fresh air, trying to steady my nerves. The cool breeze does little to calm the storm inside me. The pain of betrayal has been replaced by a cold, burning desire for revenge. This final confrontation feels like the last opportunity to exact the justice I seek. As I walk back into the courtroom, Linda and Tom are waiting. Their eyes meet mine with a mix of guilt and defiance. I notice Tom's nervous glances, his composure cracking under the pressure. There's something unsettling about his demeanor, a hint that something more might be afoot. The hearing resumes and the judge delivers a ruling in our favor. The settlement is substantial, and Linda is ordered to pay a significant sum in damages. The decision feels like a hollow victory. The courtroom's tension dissolves into a murmur of relief and disbelief. Linda's face pales as the judgment is read. Her attempts to maintain her composure crumble, and Tom looks as though he's been hit by a freight train. The weight of their actions is finally catching up with them. As we leave the courtroom, I catch Tom's eye. There's a flicker of fear, a realization that the consequences of their betrayal are just beginning later that evening. As I'm going through the paperwork, I receive a call from an unknown number. I answer, and a voice on the other end says, "Jason, you need to know something." I have information about Linda and Tom. My pulse quickens. Who is this? I'm someone who knows the whole story. The voice continues, "There's more to their betrayal than you realize. Meet me at the old warehouse on 5th Street. I'll explain everything." Curiosity and suspicion collide as I decide to investigate. The warehouse is an old, dilapidated building on the edge of town, a place that has seen better days. I arrive just as the sun begins to set, casting long shadows over the crumbling structure. Inside I find a man waiting. He's in his Phi S with a weathered face and a knowing look in his eyes. He introduces himself as Derek, a former colleague of Tom's. "What's this about?" I demand. Derek explains that Tom and Linda were involved in a scheme to embezzle money from their company. Their affair was just a cover for a more insidious betrayal. They had planned to frame me for the financial misconduct. Using the affair as a smokescreen, the revelation is a brutal twist. Linda and Tom's betrayal was deeper and more calculated than I had ever imagined. My anger surges anew, but this time it's not just about personal vengeance, it's about justice. Derek hands me documents that detail their plans and provide evidence of their embezzlement. I now have everything I need to expose their criminal activities. The following day, I contact the authorities and provide them with the evidence. Linda and Tom are arrested, their scheme exposed for all to see. The once confident facade of their lives crumbles as they face criminal charges and the reality of their actions. The media coverage is intense and the fallout is significant. Linda's and Tom's lives unravel publicly, a stark reminder of the consequences of their deceit. I watch from a distance, a mixture of satisfaction and emptiness settling over me. The retribution I sought has come to fruition, but the cost of the battle has been high. In the aftermath, I find a sense of closure. The house, now a symbol of betrayal and vengeance, is sold. I move to a new city, starting fresh. The memories of the past linger, but they are now just shadows of a life that was torn apart by deceit. As I settle into my new life, I reflect on the journey. The betrayal that once drove me to the brink has been met with a resolution, but the scars remain. The final act of retribution has left me with a newfound understanding of the complexities of justice and the true cost of revenge. In the end, the story of betrayal and retribution is one of loss and discovery. The road to vengeance was paved with pain, but it has led me to a place where I can finally begin to heal and move forward.